Hello and welcome to Remainders, where we discuss movies, old movies, new movies, weird movies, documentary movies about weird gaming nerds that we're going to talk about today. And with me, as always, is my co-host Patrick McIntyre. And Pat, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about this movie with you. How about you?
I am doing great, and this is the first time I think that I've watched the film that you've suggested before the due date, because I literally had so much time on my hands and I'm like, I'm really interested in this film. What is this all about? King of Kong, trying to explain it to people before I even knew anything about it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's about King Kong or whatever. And then I realized, no, it's about the video game industry and sort of the championships that ensue. And then I watched it, not being a gaming nerd myself. I didn't know if I would enjoy it, but holy shit, did I. There's so much to talk about in this film, and I'm sure you're raring to go.
Oh man. Okay. So I am very excited that you enjoyed it because this is certainly one of my favorite documentaries. I mean, I have many favorite documentaries, but this is way up there on the list. Certainly one of my most rewatched movies. I mean, this is a pretty short film. I think it's like only an hour and 20 minutes. So it definitely fits into your schedule this week if you had some extra time. And just over the years since I saw it, this has been a repeat viewing, certainly every year since then, because this is definitely a comfort movie for me. But yeah, the movie we're talking about is the 2007 documentary King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, which is a subtitle that I actually really, really love. Definitely fits right into it. But yeah, I mean, really quick, this is the story of two men vying for the top score in the 1981 arcade video game Donkey Kong, the original, like the very first like Mario game, came out around the same time as Pac-Man. Billy Mitchell is the reigning champion for years of Donkey Kong. And in 2006, Steve Wiebe, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I know that's part
Yeah,
of
he makes sure that everybody
yeah,
knows the pronunciation
right.
right. It's Wiebe. Yeah, he said that.
He manages to break the top score. Unfortunately, this kind of exposes a level of corruption amongst the Twin Galaxies gaming corporation, which is like kind of the mecca of where top scores are held. And his exposure of this top score really shows the level of kind of purposeful deceit in the gaming world for these top scorers for classic gaming. And so I'm certainly making it sound to be like much more serious a film than it is, because this is a funny fucking movie. And it really is the fact that it takes such a seemingly trivial subject matter and turns it into such a great story about power and creative and skillful aspirations that one incorporates in their lives.
Yeah, I have to say too, it's always fun to talk about the time period of which these films are made, right? So you're talking in 2007 it came out, and you think about the technology that was around during that time, right? So a lot of times in this documentary, as I'm sure you'll see, anybody who hasn't seen it before, you're not looking at people in a time where cell phones were around. You're looking at a time when they had to have camcorders mounted, on a tripod to film them beating the game or getting the high score. And then they would take these tapes and send it in. So if you couldn't be there in person, which is the thing to do, if you want to be a real champion, you've got to beat people, in a setting where you could be people are holding your looking over your shoulder as you're playing. There's a lot of pressure in the sort of public forum to play these games in the public championships, but a lot of these records are being held by people who are filming them beating the game, getting the high score. And that's where the sort of trouble comes in here, because the current holder, Billy Williams, who is somebody I can't wait to dive into this character.
Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell. I'm sorry, Billy Mitchell, of course. I'm thinking of the pitchman, Billy Williams from back in the day. But the Billy Mitchell is like the classic Midwest businessman. Won't give up. I think his quote from like then until now is like, don't give up ever. He wears United States flag ties. This guy is like the businessman that will not give up, and he does not want to acquiesce to losing ever. And so he's going to have something up his sleeve for the Steve Wiebe character, who comes in and has submitted a tape that said he's now the high scorer on Donkey Kong, unseating the long-standing reigning champion that has been there for since the beginning. So this is a big deal in the gaming world. And like I said, it's very timely. The fact that this documentary is happening, it's happening right on the cusp of this Donkey Kong unseating, which has taken years to do. And it's pitting two men against each other, really, that couldn't be more different, right? You know, you got Billy over on one hand, who is sort of like obsessed with power. He's this egomaniac because he's the champion. He found the one thing that he got accolades for and has milked it ever since. He's turned it into a big business for his chicken wings, his hot sauce chicken wing business. You know, he's used this thing to sort of go off and make a living for himself. So anything that challenges his Donkey Kong win is really, really, really not cool for his life. And so the other hand, we have Steve Wiebe, like you said, who's a family man. It doesn't bother him when his kids are yelling at him while he's playing in Donkey Kong. He's kind of down on his luck. He's kind of like a lot of us artists out there. He has a, you know, real big skill in music, but he hasn't really done anything with it. He was a really good pitcher, but he kind of flaked under the pressure. It's really interesting that they set it up that way, because they're really setting up that this guy is now got the thing that he's really good at. All of these other things he was really good at, but he just couldn't quite get there and be a champion. But now in Donkey Kong, this man can be a champion. And like I said, it's two different people. It's really two different characters that we're seeing in this film pitted up against each other for the win.
Well, I mean, you're setting up this conflict so perfectly. I'm sure for everybody who's seen the film, it definitely that resonates with them the most. And if you haven't seen the film, this really is the core of like why this movie works so well. So like maybe taking a step back, like, so this is one of two documentaries that we're going to watch. And I definitely wanted both of these because I find them to be both pretty inspired, especially our second movie, but this one very much so inspired by one of your favorites, American Movie, which we watched for the podcast. And it really does capture that kind of working class aspiration for either a creative or an artistic endeavor, because it's meaningful for them. It gives them purpose. It gives them a fulfilling sense of duty and artistic expression. And we watch with the struggles and the sacrifice that they put in through it, and that's really what these two documentaries are going to kind of follow through. And so that is kind of the Steve character. He really is the person we're rooting for, because his pursuit is one, even though like I'm certainly not going for any world records in Donkey Kong, but I definitely am rooting for him. And a large part of it is because Billy Mitchell is like such a fucking great villain. Like he really is a top tier villain. And that's a huge reason why this movie works so well, because he is definitely so charismatic to watch. Not so much like him being charismatic, but like the narrative that the director sets up with between these two is just one that I absolutely love.
I mean, the world loves assholes. The world loves, you know, people that are crazy, because that is the stuff that's worth watching. I mean, why is like the Netflix documentary on this Alex Murdaugh guy going fucking bonkers right now? Why is that trial going bonkers? Why is everybody so glued to that shit? It's because this can't be, he's so fucking crazy. How could this be real? You know, how could, and like, of course, the thing with Billy Mitchell in this, like you said, he's a great villain, but why is he a great villain? Because we all know this guy. We all know this guy. Right, he got just like, you know, I use this phrase that I used to see that was in my dad's Pace of Business all these years ago. And I remember seeing it and I still think about it today. It's like when a little shot gets a half shot, he thinks he's a big shot. And that's Billy Mitchell, in my opinion. I mean, he got some accolades, and I'm not saying he doesn't work hard, and I'm not saying that he's not, you know, good at what he does. I'm saying though, he has these tactics that he's built on from one accolade in his life, and he's used it. Maybe that's more common than not, but he really goes and makes him, he does, this is like a big business trip that happens with people. Once you are in a place of power, you back out and you don't let anybody see you. You don't talk to anybody. Like if you're the champion, you have like a gopher in front of you that goes and does all of your business for you. That's your ears on the street, that's your eyes on the street. And then you sit back and you kind of say, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And then you're like the Svengali of it in the back, but nobody ever sees you. And this happens with Billy Mitchell in this big time. And it's so, and as the audience, we're watching and we're like, are you going to show up to the tournament? You got to defend your name. But he doesn't give a shit. He's in control in his mind. He's this power hungry maniac that knows he's the champion and he's convinced himself. That's another thing that happens where I feel with, you know, people in business is that even if it's a lie, it's a lie that they've told themselves that they're going to believe. And as soon as they tell themselves that they're going to believe it, they never let go of it. They always, anybody could challenge you high and low, but you're never, ever going to say that you're wrong. And that's Billy Mitchell here. I don't feel like up until this day, there's still lawsuits going on right now against him. And like the fact that he probably cheated in the, and, you know, all the way back to 2005 or whatever it is. And he's not saying he'll never say he did. Kind of reminds me of one of our presidents that we used to have here a couple years
ago. So perfectly put. So yeah, Brian Koo is the minion who's doing all the legwork, and this is such a great douchebag character. As you're saying, like his eyes and ears on the ground. And again, it really is the direction from Seth Gordon, who went on to like Hollywood comedy films and TV and whatnot. He's directed like episodes of The Office. He directed that movie Horrible Bosses, which is, you know, pretty funny. It's got a great performance from Colin Farrell as this the shitbag supervisor. So, and this was an early movie from Seth Gordon. And so you can see like that's a huge reason why this works so well, because the editing and the narrative structure that he unfolded. This was originally a documentary just solely about the video game mecca of Twin Galaxies. It's called Chasing Ghosts, I believe. It was still released, but like that was the documentary that he was set out to make. And then this kind of conflict between Steve and Billy Mitchell kind of unfolded while he was making it. And so that's kind of like why
like the organic, like that's like the gold, right, like you can't expect, right?
Where it was just really like a true example of like somebody filming a documentary and then the story changes because events change and characters are uncovered, and thankfully that's he kept that going because we got this amazing fucking documentary. But yeah, I mean, I fully subscribe to how much this one is just really an underdog story. And again, that's kind of a lot of what I got out of American Movie and why I love that one so much. And I'm assuming that's what you responded to so much in that one over the years. It really is the underdog story that kept these movies going, and why this one was such a powerful impact on me. So, I mean, I saw this pretty quickly after it came out, maybe 2008. I remember I saw a recommendation. Might have been like Entertainment Weekly or something. Actors or directors were showing like their favorite movie of the year, and it was John C. Reilly who said this was like his favorite movie of the year. So like I hadn't heard about it at the time, and so I picked it up. I remember I got it from Netflix through the DVDs, which is how Netflix used to go. You actually get the DVD in the mail, and I remember that vividly because I remember keeping it for like several months because I just rewatched it so many times after I first saw that. And oh man, I was so happy to do that because this has stuck with me over the years. Like I said, it is because the comedic element of the narrative story that really drives it home for me.
Yeah, I did a little research, you know, and usually through Wikipedia, you can see some things that have happened ever since the film came out. And I just love the fact that like a lot of it was like fact checking a lot of the shit that Billy said, you know, like the Red Baron stuff that he shot down like 87 guys or whatever it was. And they're like, yeah, actually, no, it was more like blah, blah, blah. I kind of just love that. Like people are sitting there bullshitting at this early, like nowadays you can't get away with like, well, you can, but a lot of people like, you know, prepare a little bit more when they're getting on camera and don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the things that are going on with like, is it fraudulent? Is it not? I mean, Billy went after Steve because he had a board sent to him. In the film, they show this. He had a board sent to him that he had to replace on his Donkey Kong machine. And that's when they said, I guess that's against the what is it?
Twin Galaxies.
Twin Galaxies rules, that if you replace any kind of piece of, your console, then your, record doesn't stand. So what does Steve Wiebe do? He goes and shows up in person and says, all right, fuck that. I'm going to beat this. And I'm going to show up in person, and even calls the current champion, Billy. And he goes, let's do this in person. And this is where, again, Billy doesn't show up. He just decides to like send people out. And like one day he does show up, but it's just to walk past them and taunt them. It's just like insane. And it's under the umbrella of gaming, professional gaming. So like it's even more ridiculous if you think about it. It's like this is the things that these people are taking seriously. And you think that like that kind of stuff happens in regular business day to day, but this is happening in the world of like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, no, I mean, this movie is about one thing. It's about power. And the power that Billy Mitchell exerts over the gaming industry from Twin Galaxies. I mean, he is the one who's on the board, basically determining whether or not high scores and videotapes that are sent in are acceptable. And they're rejected for whatever reasons. Maybe there's fraudulence, maybe somebody like tampered with the tape. And it really shows that like he's in on the decision making that will affect like whether or not his high scores are maintained or not, or still recognized. And that's what really just keeps this story going and is so universal. I mean, because this is the story of, largely most societies, and how power works, how power is exerted over people in a way to maintain it for specific people and not for others. And so that's where the underdog story comes in, and it's just fucking great. It's so universal. I mean, we'll get into the music. The music is a big part of like why it's such a watchable movie. But one of the final songs that they play is "Everybody Knows" by Leonard Cohen.
Yeah,
and it's just
when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, Pat's got to be going crazy."
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, there's plenty of great music in this movie. They start with The Cure and then end it with Leonard Cohen. But that song, "Everybody Knows." I mean, the lyrics: "Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor. The rich get rich." It's like it really is just driving home the story of how power is exerted over the powerless. And it's such a well-directed scene with that, when they're showing Billy kind of possibly getting prepped to like go head-to-head with Steve, but that doesn't come to fruition.
Well, the reason I brought that Alex Murdaugh thing is because I did watch that like Netflix series that just came out on that, and I just thought there was a lot of parallels, like you said, with the power dynamic.
Yeah,
people who have money and are able to control situations, it always turns out to be the little people get shit on, right? Even if there's like loss of life here or anything like that, like people can control the story through power, influence, money. It's a fucking shame. And a lot of times too, a lot of people who don't have a lot of help, or are in a corner because life can be that way, where you just don't have the means to get ahead, can be controlled that way. And that's the scary thing, is that because no matter how like strong-willed you are, everybody can be controlled one way or the other based on their situation in life. And that is kind of an interesting thing to watch that series and watch this at the same time, because like you said, and I love that you said that this is a film about power, and this story is everywhere, but we're just having to place it in the realm of championship video gaming.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now the subculture and all the various characters are definitely what keeps it such at an entertaining pace. I want to know your take on Mr. Awesome and his incorporation into the story. I did enjoy
that text you sent me yesterday, because like that guy, of course, is another character. It's just like some people are able to like go above and beyond with that. Like some people are smart that they know like, okay, I got to be a character and that's what is like everyone's going to like latch on to. But for whatever reason, Mr. Awesome didn't have like anything else to back it up. He just like wanted to go overboard, but then like
Yeah.
there wasn't any like again, he didn't have what Billy had. Billy was a champion. So Billy could be like a little bit of a crazy character, but still a little bit like reserved, and able to do things. Like Mr. Awesome was like, I'm gonna make out this video. I'm gonna have like, girls that are half naked in it. I'm gonna call myself Mr. Awesome, but yet he has no championship under his belt, right?
Well, he claims he has the Missile Command score.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is, I mean, again, like who knows, like who actually has it, but like he claims that Twin Galaxies is corrupt with like the scores that they publish. And so if you haven't seen it, Roy Schultz ends up providing Steve with a board for him to play Donkey Kong as he was trying to beat Billy Mitchell's score. And once Twin Galaxies receive this score from Steve Wiebe, they end up sending spies to like check out the machine that he worked on or that he played the game on and to see if it was worked on in any way. And they found out that it was provided by Roy Schultz, who they believe would like to see nothing more than Twin Galaxies kind of falter. And so it's through this kind of exertion of power, as we were saying, it's like that's why they basically rejected Steve Wiebe's score. And so like you see all this shit, and this is all happening with Mr. Awesome, who's this pickup artist, trying to be this self-made man in the 80s with all these self-made videotapes. And it's just absolutely perfect personality for this type of movie, and actually coining chumpatize, which is just an absolutely beautiful word. I mean, I looked it up. I mean, it actually is on Urban Dictionary, which is always a hilarious thing to still get on these days. But to turn someone into a chump, often used reflexively. Earliest documented use is in director Seth Gordon's 2007 documentary, The King of Kong.
Oh man, that's like a laugh I haven't had in a while. That's amazing that it made it that far to chumpatize somebody. Unbelievable. So
You
Mr.
didn't think
Awesome,
about one thing, me helping him not turn him into a chump, out of chumpatizing himself.
and like the whole thing is like again under the veil of championship video gaming, so it's also absurd. You've got these characters that are just after each other, and the pawn in the game that we're not talking about is the referee, the guy who's actually like would rather be a musician, the guy who started Twin Galaxies. I forget his name again. What do you remember his name?
Walter Day.
Yeah, who's awesome. He's just basically there to like be a real legit ref. However, he's a little influenced by the fact that Billy is the champ. And he's like, you can tell at the beginning, they do make it pretty clear that everybody wants to be Billy's friend. Billy's the champ. Billy's been in all of the magazines. Billy's the guy that has won. He's succeeded. Nobody can beat Billy. So when a newcomer comes on, like Steve Wiebe, he's like, oh, like what do we do now? Like there's some new person that might be better than him. Like they are, like they don't say it, but they are biased a little bit to Billy. And I feel like Walter is stuck in the middle, but he eventually does the right thing and lets Steve know, like, look, you showed up, you are a contender, and Billy didn't come to the championship, and I want to apologize for that. He sent him a letter, and you could see that he is like, he does have a conscience. He does have, empathy for this scenario that's playing out. It just took him like a minute to kind of switch over to that. And I think it's really nice that the filmmakers did place Walter in the a farm. It looks like a simple guy and is really trying to just do something to build a community here. That's why he started Twin Galaxies and just kept going. But he also, they're setting it up that like he's a musician, that he understands, even though it's obviously pretty funny when that scene comes on and he plays the song, like you can understand that like he does have like a soul, a heart, he's not like, this isn't big business for him.
Yes, and at the same time, he straight out says like it's in Twin Galaxies' interest to promote Billy Mitchell because Billy Mitchell is a celebrity. Like he's on not like high level celebrity, but he's on like basic shows. He's certainly a celebrity in the gaming industry. So his name is recognizable. And as he says, it's like it's in Twin Galaxy's interest to partner with him quite a bit and have him be part of that institution. And that's precisely where the corruption comes from. It's like just that them being in it together is like what leads to why the person with the highest score is on the board of deciding other people's high scores. And again, it's just like it's so perfectly emblematic of like how so many societies work. Which is
the other thing is like,
yeah.
Billy saying like things like, everybody asked me what my username is, my 3 letters.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, if you have to ask me that, you're not looking hard enough, and it's like, dude, geez, like, that's like, you can see the ego coming out right from that. Like,
yeah. Oh, he's on the X show or something. And the guy's like, he's introducing him or greeting him. He's like, Billy, how are you? He's like, I'm perfect. Haven't you read?
Yeah. Dude, yes. Yeah. And that, the filmmakers were watching that and like, they're like, we gotta
get a camera on this guy as much as possible.
And that they were aware of the things that we're talking about solely because of the way that the camera moves sometimes too. Like when Billy did come into the room and it's stuck on Steve and they see Billy creep out from the side there with his wife and it zooms in on Billy, they're like completely aware of like what that energy is like in that room. And they want us to know,
Yeah.
Amazing.
It comes in there with his big boobed wife who straight out admits, no, I've never seen my husband compete head to head in a championship. So it's like, it's just in the gaming industry, he's held so much sway over people that he doesn't, people don't even like question the fact that a lot of it may be a facade.
There are some like amazing things on his social media, and I was going to tell you before this, but like anybody watching, he has an Instagram, and he'll write back to people who are like would question things and stuff like that, and it's incredible. Like it's, I'm not going to reiterate it here because I don't know it verbatim, but it's really fun to read some of the comments on his Instagram.
So since this movie, so this was 2007, I mean, it has come out that there seems to be proof that he cheated.
Well, can we set up that scene really quick? Because of the fact that so for the listeners out there, the big part of this that is like so questionable for us watching the film is that Steve Wiebe is at this championship and he does break the record and everybody sees him. There's no denying it. It's not like it's on like something he recorded in his house. He went above and beyond and beat his record that he mailed in whatever a month ago or whatever. So he's now twice beaten Billy. Billy's not at this thing. I forget what it's called, Super Fun Land or some shit like that. And Billy doesn't come, but Billy sends with the Qbert, the 80-year-old Qbert like champion. He sends her, this is his gopher for this like event. He sends her with a tape of him allegedly being the first, million points, which like he has on video, and he only allows people to watch he's not even there, but he has them set up this TV, put in the tape, and he makes it like so elite that you can watch it, but you can only watch it once. And like in between all of the levels, there's like this like fuzz that's happening on the video. Again, this is the time what we're living in, is just videotapes. So while Steve Wiebe is like above and beyond the points leader, showed up and did it in person, now we have Billy taking it away from him in the very next scene with a videotape alleging that he has actually gone to 1 million points on Donkey Kong and is back on top as the leader, completely stealing the thunder from Steve Wiebe. Sorry, I had to set that up so that you could talk about what you were talking about next.
No, I mean, so that is, again, it shows the corruption. It's that other people have submitted tape scores and they're not always accepted, but Billy Mitchell submitting his by tape, there's really no questioning of it at all. And that just shows the power that he holds over it.
And even when Walter is on the phone, like talking with him, he's kind of like giving Billy the answers that he's asking the questions like, okay, so you did this in Okay. So you did that. So you did that the right way. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like you're watching that conversation unfold and you're like, yeah, like they're going to give him the win without even questioning this really. And that's the moment I think that you were about to talk about, is that this is where that tape wouldn't be allowed to be shown again. So Billy wouldn't let it be shown again. He just said, watch it once, because he didn't want anybody like really scrutinizing what they were seeing, because they might find out that he was cheating, which is what is alleged. They're alleging that he used some sort of like, back in the day, now it would be easy to goof that, but back then there was some sort of video editing software that he used to goof him getting to 1,000,000 points. It
Is
might
that
not
what
have
it is?
happened in one game.
So I haven't like studied it too much, like the post movie stuff, but it is alleged that he actually tampered with the tape. I saw something where there was like he was using like an emulator where he was playing the game on like a different software and not playing it like on an actual arcade machine.
Right. There's other things that they talk about, like maybe the arcade joystick doesn't go 4 ways, but maybe it went
Yeah,
6 ways, and you're
yeah,
able
I think I
to
saw that.
So like there was a lot of different things that they were alleging, and then they'd have pictures of him back in the day, and there would be like the different joystick on the thing, and they're like, oh well, the original Donkey Kong didn't come out with that; it was a yellow joystick or whatever. There's like a lot of conspiracy things about it. But anyway, I don't want Billy to sue us. I don't know if that happened for sure, but
It's all alleged. Yeah,
he's suing everybody right now because
that seems to be his MO. Yeah.
Well, again, people with money like to scare you off. Like, okay, well, you don't have any money, so I'm going to sue you, and I know you
Right.
can't stand up in court with it. But yeah, so he, again, God bless him. He's saying that he didn't do anything, and he's, fighting for it. And again, I believe he won against Twin Galaxies in 2020 about it.
Oh, okay.
Because also, there's there's like more lawsuits going on.
Yeah. Yeah, he does seem to be employing the strategy of just sue first, ask questions later. And if you have the means to do that, unfortunately in America, that does lead to a success rate for a lot of people. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just go on record here because he's suing somebody from YouTube right now, and I'm just going to say right now, like, we don't know if he cheated.
No,
but it's alleged out there, so we're talking about it, but we don't know for sure. Billy, you could be the champ, as you say, and we know all we could do is assume that you are. But it has been alleged out there that he cheated back in the day, and that Steve Wiebe didn't get a fair shot. But if you look now with Donkey Kong, there's like been a ton of people that have beat this record since then, and
for real,
those guys are far back on the list now. But these were the original champs, right?
Yeah. Oh, so good. I mean, to go back to the music, I love some of the editing with the scene that's starting from Roy Schilt with his trumpetized line, encouraging Steve to get back. Cuts to his friend, tell him to go kick some ass, and then it cuts right to the "You're the best" montage. Yeah, I think that's such a fucking great scene, and again, it makes it so rewatchable for me. I love it so much.
I feel like they probably spent like a lot of the bulk of the money on trying to get those songs licensed for the movie.
I mean, there's so many great songs. I mean, did you notice the at the beginning with the song that he's whistling in M?
I didn't.
In the Hall of the Mountain King. So this, you remember in M, like Peter Lorre, the song that he whistles?
Yeah.
That's the song that's playing near the beginning when it's Steve Sanders and Billy, when they're going, and Billy Mitchell, when they're talking about like how they met and how Steve Sanders originally lied and then they joined forces. So that song is playing in the background, and it's such a perfect song because like this is the joining forces of the antagonists of the film, basically. So
wow, that's crazy. I remember you talking about that when we watched them. You're like, oh, I remember that first from seeing King of Kong. Now it's right. Like, and I've known that you've loved this film for a long time. Like, so it's really cool to see it and like understand why. Like, you're totally right. Like, this movie is awesome. It's so great, and also like a lot of like the graphics that are put up are like so. I think they're even like more crude than like the time period of 2005 like should be. Maybe that's on purpose, I don't know, but like they're pretty crude, like a lot of the graphics that are put up on the screen and stuff like that, and like the timelines and like following like the people and who they are, those
it's definitely in the style of 80s arcade games for sure.
And
That's
yeah,
exactly.
I thought that was like on purpose, right? That was like kind of the aesthetic they were trying to go for it.
And it's like small stuff like that that really adds. Like when they're introducing the characters, they show Walter Day, they show Billy Mitchell, and the camera freezes and it transitions. Their face stays and their transitions to footage or pictures of them, like from like '82, back when they were originally working on the high scores, and like just like small directive style decisions like that just really puts it over the top.
Yeah, no, totally. And I love like all the interviews about Billy and like his characters, like his parents. Like, of course, his parents are gonna vouch for him. Like, he's great. He's always got something in his pocket. And like people are like, yeah, he's cunning. He like, knows how to have something up his sleeve. And but yeah, it's always like his friends or like whatever that are like being interviewed about Billy. I've
His
seen like
dad, his dad definitely looks like somebody you would find at the track on like a Tuesday afternoon,
you're right.
just
Yeah,
hanging out.
he had glasses, like sunglasses on, I think, in his
Billy
interview.
Mitchell's a winner. He's just a winner.
And that's another thing, like again watching this Alex Murdaugh thing, I like a lineage like that of like a grandfather, like who do these people learn from? It's always from their parents or whatever. Like a lot of people can't break that cycle. It's like, okay, well, I was taught this way, and that's what's real. I can't become my own person because I was taught this way. That's a really hard cycle to break. So who knows what Billy's father was up to, in his career. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah.
maybe we'll have to dig into it.
Oh, so good. Yeah, like I said, like I remember first having that recommendation from John C. Reilly. I'm like, yeah, of course this is Reed Rothschild's favorite movie because the comedy and the sense of humor is so perfect with it.
Oh man, can you
Uh,
imagine if like literally this was like a real movie, kind of like how that scene does play out in Boogie Nights, where they're in like where they're with Michael Mann in the recording studio, and like yeah, John C. Reilly is just like so into that character of Reed Rothschild. Like we're musicians and we believe it. Again, like the belief of who you are and taking it to the extreme is like a pretty great gift an actor can do. Like you believe, and even though like you're completely ridiculous and everybody
yeah.
knows like you're not good at music, you guys say, well, have you heard the tapes? We're that good. It's like, and then like, just like that's why those performances rule, because like there's some people in life that like truly, truly hold on to that stuff and they like feel like they gotta never give up, even though they might not be very good at something.
And it's infectious and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that's why it works so well. I could definitely picture You Got the Touch rocking out in this movie. It would definitely fit it very well.
Unbelievable. And even like Mark Wahlberg, who like he has some music, we're talking now about Boogie Nights, everybody, but he has some music obviously in him. To like sing off key that bad, like it's hard to do when you actually can sing. I'm not saying Mark Wahlberg is the greatest singer. I know he was more of a rapper back in the day, but like he's pretty off key in those. You got the touch, you got the power.
Well, so I definitely, I mean, we're definitely going to cover Boogie Nights at some point in this podcast, so we can get into it then. But I've always wondered whether or not that's acting or that's genuine from Mark Wahlberg in that scene. You know what I mean? Whether or not that's him.
Again, I don't want to get sued by anybody, especially Mark Wahlberg. So
No. I'm talking about him being an actor for that movie, for Boogie
right.
Nights, in the character for
right,
Dirk
but you're
Diggler.
saying, was he out of key on purpose, or
Right.
was he out of key just because he can't sing?
Was that him like actually embodying Dirk Diggler, being like, all right, Dirk is most likely going to be a shitty singer, and so this is the performance I'm going to give for the character, or is it part of it like he's just an okay singer to begin with, and that's what it is?
I think you're
I mean,
giving,
I think I think it's more the
too
character.
too much credit for that. Like if it was John C. Reilly, I could
I'll give Mark Wahlberg all the credit he deserves.
Well, but that's like his first movie, really. You know what I mean? You're saying that he's so into the character of Dirk fucking Diggler.
Well, it could have been PT telling him to do that.
Well, that's true. He's working with one of the best directors of all time.
Right. Yeah. So it's really more of, I'm not saying like there's like some like overly complicated way of doing it, but I just think that, he was a singer, so he was obviously not terrible at singing.
Right.
And so I think that for him playing Dirk in that scene, which works so fucking well, I think he's definitely playing it up as like,
Well, I agree with that. He knows
yeah.
that Dirk, like he knows they got to be bad musicians, so he's gonna. I guess all I'm saying is like whether he can sing or he can't, it's really hard to like perform out of key if you know how to
Mm,
sing. That's
yeah.
that's my main thing. Like, I'm not saying I'm the greatest singer in the world, but if somebody said, "Hey, can you do this whole take and do it out of key?" I would have a harder time doing that than singing it on key.
I know you have a hard time sucking it up there, and you just fucking kick so much ass. So
I just wanted to
that's
pump up my next record that's coming. No, I'm just kidding.
right, 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 right.
Yeah, no, I love that kind of stuff and those kind of characters and when they can go into that kind of stuff. But the fun thing about a movie like this is that these guys are real people. Like,
Yeah.
now it's kind of like the fun thing. Like okay, so I also looked into it. There's a cameo for um
For Billy.
yeah, for Billy. He has a
Right.
cameo, and I watched a couple of his excerpts, and it's like amazing because this guy knows, like he knows every little thing he's going to turn into something that's monetarily, lucrative for him here.
Yeah.
And he's even got like a hot sauce that's like the King of Kong hot sauce. Like
I
he
saw
knows
that.
he
Oh,
can
I
make
need to
it.
get one of those bottles.
I
I
know.
can't
And then
believe
you
I
even
don't
get a
have it, to be
cameo.
honest. So yeah.
Right. Like it's like you got to get a cameo almost too. It's like, what the fuck, $60 to have Billy, tell you that never give up, okay.
I did see you mentioned his Instagram. I had seen it before. One of my favorite pictures that I saw on it when I briefly scrolled through it was he was posing with Darth Vader. He's in this all white suit and he's just posing with Darth Vader. And the caption is just legends. It's like, yeah, two of the best like villains in movies of all time.
Okay, so like here's the other thing.
Yeah.
I think on TMZ or something like that. Yeah, by the way, everybody out there, I check TMZ. I feel like that's the most reliable news source. I'm not kidding. I like watch it or I check it out every day. That's like where I get my news. I don't have television. I don't have anything like that. I log on to TMZ.com and I feel like they're the most reliable. They're like speedy on the news and like I'm up to date on everything I need to know. Anyway, TMZ today posted that Billy McFarland, the guy from the Fire Festival shit, started a venture with the other guy that was in that documentary. So that Billy McFarland guy got caught for fraud or whatever and was in jail.
Yeah.
There was this guy that was in the Netflix series that was like talking about like how Billy McFarland said he had to go like blow the guys at like the border so that they can get like, some stuff across the border. Those two guys teamed up in New York to make grilled cheese, like make a grilled cheese restaurant sandwich, like business venture. And that's what I'm talking. This is the same thing we're talking about right here. The public is like, isn't this fucking insane? They're serving, millionaire kids the fucking cheese sandwiches at the Fire Festival. Yet here we're gonna go and like eat at his grilled cheese restaurant because it's like we just can't help it. We just like we're so stuck on it. We want to take selfies in front of like the grilled cheese restaurant that the guy from the Fire Festival is fucking doing. And meanwhile, Fire Festival guy is getting fucking rich. That's our culture. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, how is that motherfucker so rich? It's like because he's smart and because he knows you're stupid.
I can't argue with that. Yeah. I mean,
I'm
grilled cheese does sound good right now. And yeah, if you can monetize it on social media as being the villain, it's not an uncommon thing. There's no doubt about that.
Well, there's like that's a business route that many take. And again, like everyone can complain about like the Kardashians and they're everywhere and everything's like, well, you're fucking watching them. Like, like you're the one who's like funding this public display. I mean, like that's what's happening.
I think the people who do watch them aren't necessarily the ones complaining about them as much.
Oh, maybe you're right, but there's a lot of people in the world that are complaining about like how did this person get rich and how that. Well, like I don't know. People realize that this is what people want to watch.
Yeah, there's certainly no shortage of dummies to sell shit to. That's a timeless truism.
I mean, that's the thing about Woody Allen films back in the day. Again, you kind of had to level up to him to watch his films. He wasn't going to dumb down to you. And that's why maybe it was like only a certain like criteria people liked Woody Allen films or got that humor, but he wasn't going to like dumb himself down for like any kind of like quick fix for box office or whatever. I mean, you can say whatever you want about him in his personal life, but that's like the kind of movies he always made, and he was consistent with it. Nowadays we don't need to get into the Marvel stuff and all that, but like, there's a certain kind of business for making movies these days, and some people know exactly how to make the money on them, and some people are like, oh no, I want to make an art house movie. You know what I mean? It's like going to see Vertigo or going to see like I don't know, what's like a big Marvel movie. I don't know, like probably these days nobody would go see Vertigo. They would go see
what's the Ant-Man. Ant-Man's
Ant-Man,
the
yeah.
newest one.
And again, I enjoy those two, so I'm not shitting on them, but you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, we could transition. I got a little Scorsese talk that we can go to. I feel like we've covered a good amount of King of Kong.
Yeah.
Anything else that we're missing?
No, I just really want to tell everybody out there who's listening, who's made it this far, thanks for listening, and go watch the movie. Like literally, you're going to enjoy it. It's so great. This was a great recommendation by Pat for me. 2 in a row, actually. I mean, 3. You've been kind of killing it with the recommendations. I mean, our Cage stuff is like, I never thought I'd see Mandy. I never thought I'd see King of Kong. And yeah, you're killing it. So we can move on, go see the movie. Let us know what you think. I love reading people's comments. I seriously do. It's like, by the way, just really quick before we switch.
Oh, hell yeah.
For getting me this book, which is so fucking good. And I'm only like 5 pages in.
You can hear Tarantino's voice while you're reading, right?
Dude, yeah. 100%. And it's so the way we talk, it's so movie fan centric. People will love this book. And like I said, I'm not even barely past that first chapter, and I'm loving it. And that's why I love when people comment, because I know that you guys love movies just as much as we do. This fucking movie is so talkable. Like we could talk for hours. Like, give us like, your take on it. Maybe it's your favorite movie, and like you've been thinking about someone to talk to about Mr. Awesome for years. Well, we're the guys. Let's talk about Mr. Awesome.
Don't trumpetize yourself. Get on it. So
yeah.
All right.
So,
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm so happy you enjoyed it, because like I said, it's always been one of my favorite documentaries, and we'll keep that going. Like I said, connecting it to American movie, there is just a through line to it that I think is very valuable. Like all these great documentaries about artistic and creative endeavors. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
Agreed. And yeah, again, this is like a movie that is just enjoyable. Like you can totally see yourself, just like it's an hour and 20 minutes, and you can, sail away and watch without having to think too much about it.
Right. Love it. Okay, let's stay on books for a second. Yeah, I totally agree with you with Tarantino's cinema speculation. The way he talks about film, it really is something that I always think about. It's like, I mean, there's a huge difference between the way critics talk about art and the way artists talk about art. And Tarantino has always been like a very clear example of that. Is like he approaches movies in a way that's just very different from film critics. Like film critics will give accolades to his films, but then kind of not really mock his favorite movies, but certainly dismiss them. Not really looking. Like one of his favorite movies of all time is Bad News Bears, and you'd be hard pressed to find like a professional film critic, whatever that means these days, who would put that like in their top 10 sight and sound list and whatnot. And it just really exposes like how differently critics and artists talk about art. And I mean, I'm 100% on the side of like exploring the way artists respond to art, because it's a whole nother way of viewing it, a whole a lifestyle that is just true to them. There is no.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, and I mean, I love what you had to say, and I was actually talking about that the other day on how Tarantino kind of gets shit on for his picks of the films that he likes, but yet like he's influenced by them so much, and it's very clear in his films that he makes, and people are like, oh, this guy's a fucking genius, legend, which of course he is, but they can love his films, but they can't love the films that he likes. And he talks so much about that at the beginning on why there's certain, like, it's like he's starting off talking a lot about 70s cinema and the movies that he saw when he was young. Again, I'm probably like whatever 20 pages in or something, but just from the beginning of talking about like going to the films and like how a lot of them were violent and like how he, his mom didn't mind that he saw those scenes, and he's kind of like explaining that, like, yeah, like this is what films do. They kind of like open up this world to you, and like, also the way that people react in the theaters will
Yeah.
influence how you feel about a film. And then like even talking about like some subtext in some of the 70s films that were like the gay subtext or like racism and things like that, depending on like what you heard from the audience, you know it could sway you, or it would make you think a certain way. Maybe you didn't know exactly what this was about, but now the audience is yelling like a racial slur and you realize, oh, this is about race, or something. There's two people that like are in love, but I didn't really know until I heard like somebody yell in the back. Like he even talks about like his stepdad was yelling, like some, again, we don't need to get into this whole book, but there is like right off the bat that like 20 pages in, this is the shit he's talking about. Like this book fucking rules.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get to his taxi driver essay, because that one's very very illuminating about like just the movie itself and just like what he thought about it and why it was important to him. And that's the bulk of the whole movie. It's just him just going essay by essay about his favorite films and like how he was influenced by them. And again, like I was saying, like if you've ever heard Tarantino talk, it's fucking great to listen to hear him talk about movies, and now to be able to like read his writing about it is just on a whole nother level. So
Yeah,
definitely, I mean, I knew you had to have it, so it was just like, this is, yeah, you got to get this in your
I
palm.
appreciate that so much. And I just wanted to say, I was at the New Beverly. I saw Amelie the other day,
Oh hell yeah.
and we walk into the theater, classic old cinema that Tarantino took over years ago. And it's very much, we've talked about it before, put your cell phone away. Like before the film starts,
Yeah.
they have the person that's putting the film on and says, okay, everybody, last week we had to ban somebody for life for bringing their cell phone out even once. Even when the previews start, I don't want to have to do that to you. Put your
Yeah.
cell phone away. This is a cell phone free zone. We believe in film. They say this. We
Hell
believe
yeah.
in film. We believe in cinema. And man, it's a great experience. And like that's the cool thing about Tarantino, is he's so bold in he's unapologetic about the way that he wants to do things. And you feel it in his movies, you feel it in the way that he runs the cinema there, and you feel it for sure in this book. He's just kind of saying, this is how it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is my experience. You can write a book about your experience one day if you want. This is mine.
Oh, love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Sorry. Let's get on to your Scorsese. You got a Scorsese thing you want to talk about.
Yeah, so staying with books. So the book I'm reading right now is Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grain. So I bought this 2 years ago. This is when I first heard that this is Scorsese's next movie. And I finally saw the pics come out. Looks like it's pushing 3.5 hours. It's going to be starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro in the same movie now. So it's like, it's a pretty big deal for them. But
This
seeing the
Boy's
pics,
was probably the only one that they've done together,
this
right?
is the first time that he's having his two like
Right, Scorsese's. But they've been
Scorsese's two
together
actors.
in this boy's life, if you remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But working with Scorsese is definitely viewing it as like why this is such a monumental movie to having them together now. Like
You might as well have
Scorsese's two
Harvey
big,
Keitel and
right.
yeah.
So when I saw the pictures, I was like, all right, I got to get on it. And finally read the book this week. And man, I 100% see why this was something that Scorsese had to make after reading it. This came out in 2017. Not going to give like anything away because I'm going to avoid all previews of how his style is. But I mean, the story is essentially about a native tribe that had land in the 1920s. That ended up being oil rich. So it was a Native American tribe that ended up being extremely rich, and unexpectedly and out of nowhere, so they just start getting murdered one by one. And this coincides with an investigation because they have money, so they have money to investigate it. This coincides with the rise of the FBI, which didn't exist before the 1920s. So
and therein lies the Scorsese.
Right. And it was basically one of the first jobs for like J. Edgar Hoover to kind of lead the investigation of it. So it's the mystery of like why all these wealthy Native Americans are being murdered. I mean, why might be there, but like who's doing it, and then the rise of the FBI and seeing them come together. Man,
God,
like
cannot.
I just finished it today, and I can tell you, like, based on knowing like who Leo and Robert De Niro are playing, this movie has the potential to kick fucking ass.
Dude, I got to tell you, my girlfriend has not seen like barely any Scorsese films, so I get
Oh,
this is the nice thing, the lens
yeah,
of watching a film
right.
to
Oh no,
somebody who has never fucking
it's my
seen.
favorite thing. Yeah.
Oh my
It's
God.
part of the reason why I've rewatched so many movies. I'm like, oh, you haven't seen this? We're watching it right now. So
100. Dude, you get giddy just sitting there
yeah,
being like, oh shit.
right.
You couldn't even watch the end of Casino, dude. And like, who can? Like,
Ooh, yeah, it's a
even
brutal
me
one.
now, I'm like, oh my God, like I can't watch this. It's so fucking terribly horrible. Again, fucking Tarantino talks about that kind of shit
Right.
and why it's important to have that shit in movies. Man, I could
Oh,
talk on and on
the
about
way
it.
they're holding Pesci's face, making him watch it.
Oh man. I almost winced away here. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking brutal. She couldn't watch it, man. And she hasn't seen Goodfellas yet either. So like,
Oh,
yeah. And then never seen Raging Bull, you know. I'm onto something good here. Like this is, because it's more for me almost than it is for her. Because I just get so excited for somebody to watch these films for the first time. I mean, there's no secret that we both love Scorsese. So
oh, I mean, one of the most rewatchable movies of all time, Goodfellas. Woo, I'm excited for you then. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna be covering some more Scorsese and possibly leading up to Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't see us not covering that. That seems like an essential pick for when that comes out. It's still undetermined. And so that was the other reason why I was bringing it up. So this is his first movie with Apple. So it's being produced by Apple, and it's undetermined, like the release of it, like whether or not like it's going to actually even get like a wide release in theaters, because it may become like an Apple exclusive, like just direct to streaming. And so it was just when you were talking about like big budget movies and Marvel, it's like even Scorsese has trouble working with all the big movie studios these days, because for he's obviously one of the best directors out there. He's not a guaranteed like $500 billion box office draw.
That was
so
the
like,
interesting thing about, I think, The Irishman, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he went through Netflix. It was like he wasn't going to be able to make the movie he wanted with the traditional studios, and it kind of sounds like this would have been the same thing. And so that's like, it is just like a changing environment with movie making, as it always is. But like, it is pretty bonkers that somebody like Scorsese can't do like what he wants to do unless he like plays the game in a certain way and finds the studios that actually want to work with them, which is always a changing thing,
Interesting, because Scorsese in his early career, I was like able to make films on like no budget, right? Like the Boxcar Berthas, and I think that was a Roger Corman production. So
right.
The man knows how to make a movie on no budget, but he's like, the twilight of his life and his career, he's probably like, fuck it, I'm making the movie I want to make, and somebody will give me the money because I'm like, do we have another director that it is as influential as Martin Scorsese? And like to film, I mean, I don't even think you could say like Coppola. Like Coppola has kind of stopped making films, but everybody knows him, of course, for the films that are legendary. But living right now, like you can't say De Palma, you can't say Coppola. I guess you could say Spielberg, but Spielberg's in a different realm than him. Like the guys who, I don't know, we're living in a time with some great filmmakers.
No, I mean, what makes Scorsese unique is how I think he's still making some of the best movies he's ever made. Like The Irishman is legit one of my favorite movies of that decade of the 2010s. I fucking love The Irishman. Wolf of Wall Street and The Departed are way up there. And that's what's kind of unique for him, is that like
that's true.
He like it really is just mind-boggling, but like he was making absolutely essential movies in the 70s, and he's still fucking doing it now in 2019 when The Irishman came out.
Right.
And
Arguably maybe like some of his best films, right?
Yeah, which is I just don't. Yeah, I certainly don't know or can't think of any other director. I mean, like we were just talking about The Fableman. So yeah, like Spielberg is obviously a fucking legend, and he's still like making amazing films. But you know, Fableman is not quite Jaws, but like Scorsese's just always he's staying like at the top of his game, and
That's
yeah.
it. That's the differentiator, and I couldn't really put my finger on it, because here we're talking about De Palma. De Palma is, to me, one of the greatest directors of all time, but hasn't really made a film in a while that has really, like, I don't know, maybe like the last one I thought that was really interesting was Black Dahlia, and like not even, like then you got Spielberg, who does have Fablemans, right? We loved it, but like everything kind of before that, like his last three or four, I haven't really watched. I haven't even go see. Like, why is that? I don't know. Like, maybe he doesn't have the potency that he used to. But every time you hear that Scorsese's coming out with a film, you're like, I'm there. I'm in that seat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is certainly a little bit less frequent. Scorsese makes certainly fewer films than Spielberg. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, all I'm trying to do in my mind right now is just try to figure out why I love him so much, but like, it's not really anything to figure out. It just is. Yeah. Man, speaking of De Palma, I rewatched Snake Eyes a couple years ago with
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. Not his best, not neither of their best, but pretty fucking fun movie though. This is the one from like 99. It had that like 15-minute opening shot, which was like what was like the big seller on it in the boxing arena, where it's like this 15-minute shot just setting up the whole movie with Nicolas Cage and Gary Sinise and all the characters. Pretty fun stuff. It definitely got enough De Palma and Cage style to it. I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's a lot of boxing stuff in Black Dahlia too. I mean, De Palma at his best to me is like Blowout. And
I haven't seen Dahlia, so
it was good. Again, I liked it.
Yeah,
can't forget Untouchables, of course. But yeah, anyway, we could go off on a tangent about them. I think we'll have to cover. I'd love to do like a double feature of Body Double and Blowout. Those are two films that were suggested to me by our engineer when we were recording the Scissors records. Had never heard of those two movies. One with John Travolta and Lithgow and stuff like that. Like these are. Have you seen?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we should cover those.
And you have seen them now.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were saying you still haven't seen them. You're saying when you were back in the day they were recorded. Yeah, Blowout. I think Tarantino, he might have a chapter on Blowout in that book. That's definitely one of his favorite movies of all time.
That would make sense because it's like in the 70s realm where he's talking a lot about the films that, again, I've only been 20 pages in, but so far it's like a lot of like 70s film that he's talking about.
Yeah, no, Blowout is, I feel like that's one that in the last like 10, 15 years, people are realizing like how influential and like how that is one of the best movies of the 70s, just in terms of like what he was doing and how influential it was. So
yeah, Travolta's great in it too,
so
it kind of became something different.
It's been a long time since I've seen Body Double though. I would need to rewatch that one. So
which one?
It's been a long time since I watched Body Double though. I would have to rewatch.
So a young Melanie Griffith in that as well. Anyway, I go on forever. Really great.
Hey, I mean, this is a never-ending conversation. So
yeah.
All right, you want to do music?
Yeah, let's get into our music recommendations.
Nice. Oh man, I loved that Chad Tripper song with Lit.
Oh man, yeah.
That was great. It definitely made me re-listen to a couple songs from the Lit album and more of Chad stuff as well. And I came across, I saw on YouTube, I watched Lit's video for Miserable.
Oh yeah.
This is the one with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
It's like the most 90s. This is like 1999 distilled into like a single video. The band's like literally playing on the body of Pamela Anderson. It's so fucking great. It's such a great time capsule. I had such a great time rewatching. I was like, man, I mean, because that was an album I realized like I was like in like middle school. It's like I listened to the album a lot, and so hearing those hooks again, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff kind of like weaving back into stuff, and I kind of like that about Chad, that he kind of like get like, I don't know, these are bands that like he paid attention to when he was younger. And
Yeah.
now he gets to be able to like work with, and that like that's such a cool
Oh,
revelation.
yeah.
This band that you loved that's playing on Pamela Anderson, like I can make a song with now. And like I said,
It's like Tarantino casting Travolta. It's like
yeah, yeah,
these are people you grew up by. He's like, oh man, of course I'm going to utilize you.
right, dude, totally.
Yeah.
Like to get that kind of shit going uh is kind of a fun part about life, like I don't know. I heard the other day that Tom, our drummer, is going to do this benefit back in Chicago. Actually, I don't know if you know about it. Like, Costube's putting
I
on
saw, yeah, I saw that it's at the Bottom Lounge. Maybe?
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I did that event in 2019, and then the pandemic happened and everything, and so they didn't do it for a while. But now they're doing it again. And anyway, the reason I'm bringing it up is because Art Alexakis is playing, from Everclear. And like a few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I were listening to Everclear, and we're like, "Oh fuck, man, these guys are kick-ass song." He hadn't really listened to it in a while, but like we were listening to the records, and we're like kind of going down memory lane, and I was like, yeah, and this guy's playing with Tom, like, in the middle of March. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but I remember like that was an untouchable rock star back in the day. Like
Mm,
it was all over the fucking radio. And like I would have never thought in our wildest dreams like any of us could like be on the same stage as that guy, but here we are.
love it. I mean,
So
hey, the 90s. I mean, we're in the throes of like 90s nostalgia, for lack of
yeah.
a better term, but like it's seeing the best of what came out of that decade. It was an incredible decade.
Well, it makes sense too, because like what was like with Stranger Things popping up, it was like all 80s shit again now, right? So now it's like 90s shit. So I don't know what's next, like Beverly Hills 90210, kind of like
It's usually 30-year cycles. So you just go back 30 years. That's kind of the trends that reoccur. Because people who grow up in it, they end up being of more influence. And so like if you were 13 in the 90s, now most likely you're in a position of power to lift up those voices that may still be coming from the 90s or influenced by them. So
wow, that's I would have never thought that. So see, learn something every day. But do you want to know what my pick is for song?
please, I'm
Okay.
excited.
I've been thinking a lot about like records that I like played the shit out of, and like why. And there's a band called the Menzingers. You ever heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
Back in 2017, they released a record called After the Party. Have you ever heard that record before?
I mean, I know I've listened to several other records. The names are not off the top of my head.
Lyrically, these guys are like, dude, bar none, like so good. And I've listened to this record so many times, and I was like, oh, what song am I gonna have? And I was like, well, what are like some of my favorite songs of all time, like in the last like decade? And the one that I'm going to talk about today is one of them. And the reason that being is because I feel like the Menzingers are like the same age as me. And the reason I like to talk about this record is because the record starts with like their song. It's like, what are we going to do now that our 20s are over, And this came out in 2017, and he's kind of talking about, we're out of our 20s, we're growing up. It's like, it's called After the Party, right? Like after you're done kind of like going out and drinking and stuff, like what's life like? What's it like to grow up? And I think the reason that this band is so potent is because like a lot of times, like, if you follow trends, like we talk about all the time, you try to like play to your audience that was at one point listened to you when they were 15 is now 25 and they don't relate to you anymore. And then even less so when they're 35 and you're playing the same shit. It's hard to keep an audience, except I feel like every time the Menzingers come out with a record, they're putting out a record that coincides with life and like what it's like to live it in the current state that their fans are in, right? So this record especially really hit in my 30s there. And I love this song called Your Wild Years, and I wanted to talk about a couple of the lyrics. This is my pick. It's called Your Wild Years from 2017's After the Party by the Menzingers. And like this I think this is the third verse almost, or maybe it's the second, but anyway, these are the lyrics. We drove up to Massachusetts together. Your old house was just like you remember. We stayed in your adolescent room and rummaged through the boxes labeled former you. The souvenirs of happiness in the moment, your wild years that you often mention, the sands of time in an hourglass that you're always begging for back. Um, I got drunk in the afternoon with your father in the living room. As the television broke the silence, you smiled, know that I was trying the best that I can do. Okay, so why do I love that? He's like going somewhere with a girl that he's like in love with, but he doesn't really know about her past. But he's going to her home, her adolescent room. They're staying there. It's awkward. We've all been in that situation. We've dated somebody, we're older now, and the connectivity that we have to each other's pasts aren't the same. My girlfriend that I had in high school, well, we know that life and we knew all that kind of stuff. The girlfriend that I have now, luckily, was around back then. We weren't dating, so she knows a little bit of that era, but like most people don't have that. Most people don't know who you were at 20. Most people don't know who you were at 30 if you just started dating them at 40, right? And I love this passage because he's basically saying, you know, you smiled knowing that I'm trying the best that I can do. I'm sitting here having, you know, getting drunk with your father in the other room, trying to make small talk, trying to figure out who you like, and here we are at your place, you know. And these like rummage through the boxes labeled former you, like brilliant lyrics. Your wild years, the Menzingers. Listen to it, enjoy it. If you've heard it before, listen to it again. It's worth listening to this whole record. This is like a record that needs to be heard in its entirety. And there's some videos that are really great too, like especially for the last song, After the Party. This band is fucking great. This record is probably their pinnacle, but every record is great. The one they came out with after it is great too. And this is a band that was a slow burn for me. They recorded some of their first records with Matt Allison at Atlas, which is where the Scissors recorded their stuff. So I kind of like heard about them first through them, or through Matt. And then they, you know, they've kind of taken off and they're on Epitaph now. So I'm crossing my fingers that one day I'll be able to work with them somehow because I love them. But yeah, that's my pick.
Love it. Yeah, so I'm looking at it, After the Party from 2017. I've definitely listened to this album. I'm looking at the cover right now that triggered my memory. And
yeah, it's a pretty memorable cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember responding really well to it. So I'm definitely excited to re-listen to Your Wild Years on that one. That's great. I mean, and yeah, hearing those lyrics, that sounds fucking fantastic. Love it.
It's just life, man. You know, I like hearing about life. Like the good, the bad, whatever. Like that's why I'm just not a Disneyland fucking guy. You know, it's like you can't like tell me that everything is like happy all the time and like expect me to like believe it. You know, I get it that like people like to like escape into that and like be in La La Land, but I want to hear about life, man. You know, I want to hear about the real shit. And this record is chock full of that, especially in those years when you're trying to figure it all out. You know, I don't think anybody ever figures it all out, but at least it feels good when you have someone singing back to you that's trying along with you.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, you don't need Disneyland. You got Florida Project. That's all you need. Yeah. Oh, which holy shit. Okay, so I got to go see Cocaine Bear. Yeah. One, because it looks amazing. Mooney from the Florida Project, the main girl in it, she's in the movie. And this is also the last movie with Ray Liotta.
Yep, I know. I haven't seen it
yet.
It's
like, I mean, I was gonna Cocaine Bear. This is right up my alley. This is my type of movie, or horror comedy. So anyway, but having those two in it, I'm like, hey, I got to go definitely check this one out.
So my girlfriend did this like improv thing. Where was it called? It's called like Tournament of the Nerds, and she went up at this theater here called the Hayworth, which by the way has great history. It's the theater where Rita Hayworth and her family like first started out before Rita Hayworth became Rita Hayworth.
Oh shit.
Troupe of dancers, and it's the theater that they use in La La Land where Mia like performs her like one act show. Anyway, to say that I was stoked to be in that fucking theater is an understatement. But my girlfriend got to perform on that stage, and she did this thing where she like was Ace Ventura, and she had to go up against Cocaine Bear. So that's
I've seen her Ace Ventura on Instagram, and it's looking great.
yeah.
It's definitely it made me realize I haven't watched Ace Ventura, both of them in a couple of years, so I need to rewatch those. So
Totally. And the way she kind of like, had to like prepare for it. She had to know a lot about it. Was before Cocaine Bear came out. So anyway, I know I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, just that she went up on stage, performed against Cocaine Bear, and it was like amazing because like that's why we started watching. She's like, who does a lot of cocaine in the movies? I was like, well, Sharon Stone and fucking Casino. And so that's why we started watching Casino. So she could like read up on like the character of Sharon Stone. So she could talk about that like against Cocaine Bear. Like, yeah, like Cocaine Bear, like, we've seen it before when it was called Sharon Stone and, Casino. It was pretty cool.
Or the last 30 minutes of Goodfellas with Ray Liotta
Yeah.
rocking the best cocaine shit ever, which is, kind of poetic that this is his last movie now. So
Totally.
I'm so excited for us to cover Goodfellas. I can't wait.
And we got to like obviously talk Cocaine Bear when we both see it. I don't know, again, why I haven't seen it. There's like a right here on Sunset, there's a light up. Like I haven't seen it like this before. There's this like great, it's on Hillhurst which turns into Virgil and Sunset. There's this like really gnarly light. But the cool thing about this really gnarly light is like there's like 5 like intersections that like kind of merge, and there's always like the brand new movie, like what do they call it, bills like that they paste on the side of the buildings and stuff like that. So you always have like advertisements for what's coming out. But the Cocaine Bear one is up right now, and it's like a light box. So like Cocaine Bear is like lit up from the street at night. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And it's I didn't realize it was directed by Elizabeth Banks, the actress, which is I did not expect a movie from Elizabeth Banks to be a Cocaine Bear. So
I think Ant-Man beat it at the box office. That's what we were just talking about, right?
Ant-Man definitely beat it at the box office, but not by much, which is a huge thing for Cocaine Bear, why it's doing awesome and why people are not as into Marvel as they previously were. So
there's a little like a thing where Tarantino says in the book, he's like, one movie that he was watching, I can't remember the name of it and I hadn't seen it, but he's like, the character dressed up as an ape and then got punched in the balls, and he said immediately knew that this movie was for me. And that's kind of like the thing, is like when you have like a title like Cocaine Bear, it's like, yeah, I can fucking see Cocaine Bear, like I gotta go see that. Like it's it's gonna be a wild fun time.
That's how I felt the first time I watched Razorback. So I was like, yeah, this movie's for me. So
totally.
All right, so what I'm listening to this week is an artist I fucking love. We've talked about him a little bit in the past, Rocky Erickson.
Oh yeah.
Remind me, how familiar are you with it?
I'm familiar, yeah. So yeah. You made a playlist and I got to listen to those songs. We were going to cover Rocky, I think a documentary about Rocky.
So I got it right here. So You're Gonna Miss Me is an amazing documentary on Rocky Erickson and his life. I wanted to cover this after we did
Daniel Johnson.
Yes. It would have been a good double feature with that, but this is a great documentary about his life. He started with the 13th floor elevators, basically was the absolute forefront of psychedelic rock. And he's just an amazing voice. His solo career, I love so much. It really balances the act of like him writing about love songs and then writing about the devil and aliens invading his head. It was just like such a good balance of what he was writing about and the spectrum of his songs. And I love his music so much. So the song I'm picking today is Nothing in Return from his 1986 album, Don't Slander Me. This is more in the vein of a love song with garage rock and power pop stage of his career. The Evil One is a great collection of his songs that are more like horror tinged. I mean, if you're into like the Cramps or the Misfits, definitely fits right in there. But like the other half of his career is kind of more throwback rock and roll lyrics about relationships and love. And it's kind of this is a lost love song. Such a fun tune. It's not one of his more popular ones, but it's definitely one of his better ones, I think. And he's just a artist that I fucking love. I've always enjoyed him. I was able to see him a couple times perform before he passed away in
I remember you said
2000.
at the Elbow Room, right?
Not the Elbow Room, the Empty Bottle.
Empty Bottle. That's right.
Yeah,
Empty Bottle. Yeah.
I think it was 2 times I saw him at the Empty Bottle. I think he played like Wicker Park Fest.
Great fucking
Actually,
venue, dude. By the way, to see
yeah.
that.
Oh, I love the Empty Bottle. Yeah, very small. And so, and I mean, it all goes into the documentary, like, because he was off the radar for so many years. He was institutionalized, incorrectly institutionalized and subjected to electric shock therapy, which just made him even less in touch with reality. It's a pretty tragic story of his experience with that, but he was able to, with the help of his brother and a few other people in his family, he was able to like get back control of his life and started making music again. And he did release an album with Okkervil River just a couple years before he passed, which is a great album. And he was touring the last couple of years of his life. So like I said, I was able to see him a couple of times. And a lot of this is really covered in the documentary, which is why it's one I would love to cover one day. It's not available anywhere. Like it's completely out of print. DVD
Yeah,
is
that's
like,
why I don't think we covered it, because I
yeah.
wasn't watching.
So I mean, I bought the DVD a long time ago because I love the film. It's not available to stream anywhere. A DVD on Amazon is like $75 for the cheapest. So it's definitely one that's not available right now at all. So hopefully it will return to streaming or something. We can maybe cover it. But in the meantime, I wanted to cover and put some spotlight on his music, and especially this song. And as we were talking like documentaries now, this is just one I would love to get people more to watch, but obviously that might not happen for a little bit now until
Must be.
But his music is always there, and like I said, he's an artist I absolutely love.
Yeah, just maybe something to do with the rights to the music within the DVD or something that they're probably fighting on or something.
I mean, there's lots of shit. I think we were going to cover Airheads, which I would fucking love to cover, but it's not available to stream anywhere. The Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler classic from the 90s. The DVD, you can get it the DVD some places, but like it's not available to stream anywhere. It's just, physical media is a real thing that I think a lot of people, and I'm putting myself in it, it's like I kind of jumped the gun on like slimming down my physical media collection, assuming that like most stuff will be available in the future. And as we're seeing, like it's just not the case. I mean, we're getting to a point where like stuff that like comes out that came out like on streaming services and never really got a physical media release is now unavailable on those streaming services. So it's like not only are that you can't not stream it, it's physical media for it didn't even exist in the first place.
Or you could stream it if you pay the plus membership of the streaming service, right? I can't fucking stand that shit.
Well, yeah, I mean that's if it's even available.
Well, right. But either way, if it is, it might not even be on the service that you pay for because you have to pay for the premium part of the fucking streaming service. I don't know, man. It's nuts. But you're right. That's why it's good to have that physical media still. And that's cool that I love that you have that. And I also love knowing that it's like $75 for it. But, you're the one who like was smart enough to hold on to that because you love Rocky so much. And so I like that this is your pick for the week.
Hell yeah. Oh, so good. Like I said, like this is in his like kind of power pop almost phase. He had a lot of different styles over the years, and like I said, like with his influence on psychedelic rock, and he's like just a lost voice in rock and roll. Like his voice is so fucking great in all of his songs, and whether he's singing about love or about zombies and aliens and whatnot, it all sounded good.
Hell yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I love that. Cool. Well, we got a really great playlist really growing here.
Yeah.
You got your addition of these to them this week will be, I don't know, man, we've got like over 20 songs probably now in there.
We're pushing an hour and a half now, music. So I think our intention is to have the greatest jukebox playlist for anybody's party.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a lot of versatility. And even if it's not that, I mean, just revisiting this and see where it goes from here. It's like, this is like such a great combination of music between you and I.
And speaking of the tie that binds music wise between you and I mean, there's a lot of similarities of things that we like, but speaking of the man, the myth, the legend, the LA King, Warren Zevon. I voted for him the other day. I vote almost every day that I can for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I don't give a shit about that stuff. I don't give a shit about, Rock and Roll Hall of Fames or whatever, but I give a shit about Warren Zevon. So I am voting for him just because I fucking want to have everybody talking about Warren Zevon again. I just think that is a great thing. And I'm sure you're doing the same. For anybody out there listening, Warren Zevon is up for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame status, which he is very much deserves. And if you listen to this podcast enough, you realize we do love Warren Zevon very much. And it looks like he's doing pretty well. I think he's in third place right now. And I think that's enough to get into the Rock Hall, I think. So
is it just I don't pay attention to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at all. Like
right.
When I heard about Zevon, I just Googled sometimes. I mean, I watched when The Cure got inducted, and I sent you their great interaction. Like, oh my God, The Cure's here. Are you excited? Well, not nearly as excited as you are. So it was like the most Robert Smith response to fucking an overzealous reporter as possible. That's why The Cure's perfection.
Great.
I watched Eminem's speech. I didn't even realize he was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I just haven't paid much attention to it. So it's like, do you know how many I saw the list of the nominees.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but there's like the way that the voting goes, it's got like the top people that are like going to get in if they can stay that way for the voting at the end of the day. And then underneath it is like the people that I think aren't going to get it. So it's like there's like a white box and then there's like a black box, and the black box is like the people that are like not in the lead. And Zevon's definitely in third. He has been since I've been voting, at least.
Nice. Yeah. We also saw Joy Division, right?
I think so, yeah, but I don't think they're at the top.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to look again. I can't remember exactly all the inductees, but like you said, I don't pay too much attention to it, except for the fact that, again, just want to hear like about I just want to hear it.
I'll dedicate the next 3 months of my life to if more people are checking out Warren Zevon and he gets the rightful appreciation that he does for being such a fucking legend. So
yeah, I mean, they're amping up the social media presence for him big time. I've noticed. I mean,
hell yeah.
They were fine, like with it before, and every once in a while, you'd see something, but I think they knew that this was a big deal. So I see Jordan Zevon posting a lot too, and then the official Zevon like Facebook or whatever will share it, and it's always cool memories that Jordan's got of his dad, and I love that shit.
Oh, so good. I heard Lawyers, Guns, and Money the other day again. Such a great song.
Dad, get me out of this.
All right, please cover Zevon one day. I'm begging you, Darren. So.
Oh man, I did. There is a version, and I could send it to you, but I don't want anyone else to ever hear it. Of Splendid Isolation that I did cover. It's fucking terrible. Song. I did it in like 2006, and
oh no shit, back then. Because I remember like the first week of lockdown, you just sent me a link to Splendid Isolation. It's like, what a perfect fucking song to be listening to in the first week of lockdown.
About COVID, putting tinfoil up on the windows,
Oh, so good.
Michael Jackson, like for a fucking guy to sing like that, like Michael Jackson and Disneyland, don't have to share it with nobody else, Lock the gate, Goofy, take my hand, and lead me through the world of self. Fucking guy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we got to end this episode because we could talk about all of these things for years and years and years. We got to let everybody put down their headphones and go watch King of Kong because that's the movie we were here to push, and I loved it. Thanks for bringing it to my attention, man.
Hell yeah, happy to talk about it. Like I said, one of my favorite docs. So more people watching it, the better. Very happy you had such a great time watching it too, because like I said, I've rewatched it so many times, and I definitely expect you revisiting to see Billy Mitchell and Mr. Awesome and on all their charisma.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, cool. Great talk, and we'll see everybody next time.
See ya.